Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I'm not here with Geeky Sparkles. She's out and about today, but she will be back hopefully later tonight or tomorrow. We're going to talk about the manga industry getting attacked by Western journalists. I'm using air quotes here, just can't see my fingers moving. Western journalists on Vice Media. Vice News, of course, this is a company that's failing. Vice is failing. Vice is in deep financial trouble, and this journalist probably won't have a job for very much longer, which is probably why she's trying to whack the beehive. But anyway, they attacked the Japanese manga industry, the entire industry, pretty much. They had a video, they put this video up called Inside the Pedophilic Manga Industry in Japan. Basically, manga is full of P-word, it's all P-word, it's all bad. It's all horrible, and there were some huge misrepresentations here, and Japan is not happy. They're not happy with this because this is a very typical, and I hesitate to use the term, I don't use it very often on this channel, but this is a very typical SJW article attacking pop culture. And the weird thing is that a lot of the people that attack light novels and manga tend to be involved in some things themselves. We've found out over the years that there are people working for various news outlets or anime related industries that tend to be involved in some real world shenanigans. Let's just put it that way. This does seem to be a pattern. Now, I don't think this journalist per se is involved in that, and I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is it's a very easy target. It's sensationalism. It's and I'm not saying, again, all manga, all light novels in Japan are pure and clean, but in this case, they really misrepresented the extent of the smut, I guess, which is so weird. Speaking of smut, let's talk about smut, right? They love pushing smut on crowdfunding sites, as long as it's the right kind of smut, not the Japanese smut. But let's talk about this because this is an ongoing issue, especially in Australia, pushing for censorship of manga and anime, and everything's problematic. I mean, you remember that article from a few years ago? It was the Sci-Fi Girls blog, the one that got shut down because it was fucking failing. That garbage website, yeah. So that was like, all anime, all manga is problematic because of military uniforms. And it reminds me of Nazis. And I was so traumatized by Nazis in the movies that I went to go watch in Portland 10 years ago. So very easy target. For some reason, the mainstream media loves to dunk on manga and anime. And the reason they do it is because hits, and they need hits. And I'm going to tell you right now, the reason Vice is doing this, they don't believe it. I don't think they believe it. I mean, this is not, but this is what happens when you mainstream nerd culture. We saw it happen with Dungeons and Dragons and the Satanic Panic. And in this case, though, it's kind of more egregious because we've got Westerners going to Japan and calling the entire industry filthy and actually misrepresenting some of the facts here. So we're gonna talk about it. Vice, seriously? I guess it got so bad they had to hide the video in Japan. People were very, very angry. I have to give a hat tip to Black Sage D who sent me this. This is nuts. And again, this is desperation on the part of Vice that has to get as many eyeballs as they possibly can get. And we'll go out to the YouTube video too and look at some of the comments. Oh, wait, I can't look at the comments because the comments are turned off. Well, there we go. All right, this is the journalist, and she's pretty much what you would expect. Young, female, angry. She looks very, very angry looking at this smut. So anyway, let's talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. Over 281,000 subs. Thank you for the support. We do talk about manga, anime, Japanese culture. We love cartoons. We love comics. Really, that's all manga and anime means in Japan, cartoons and comics, but whatever. So Vice News, Hanako Montgomery traveled to Anime Japan. Where's that at? She traveled to Anime Japan with the goal of exposing the manga industry and its pedophilic tendencies. by pointing to different girls on large posters and confessing to be uncomfortable with their depiction, highlighting her biased opinion before her investigation had begun. Yeah, I don't want to snipe their video, but she's like going down these stairs and she's like, they're like blurring all the images and all the books out, like it's all dirty. Yeah, so they blur out the entrance to this shop, to this manga shop. And there's no P word to be found on these posters. This is like some cute kawaii type artwork or whatever. And they got to make it out like, oh, I'm going down into the basement where all the kiddie porn is. Because all of manga is all porn. It's all porn. All of it. I mean, a lot of it is. But it's, let's see if we can find it here in the video where she's like walking down the steps and they have to blur it out. And this person's like talking about assault, I believe. You know, we were sexually abused because of manga. I mean, come on. This is like, it's child abuse. It's, look, there's some dicey stuff out there. I'm not gonna lie. There is some dicey stuff out there, but they're basically painting the entire industry like it's the worst. Meanwhile, Made in Abyss is being broadcast here in the US. I just want to point that out. In the event that the video is pulled, there's an archived version available. This is coming from jlist.com. And for our readers in Japan, there's another video provided by Twitter user Sarima. Vice has discussed the topic of P word before, but they struck a decidedly different tone this time, even playing ominous music. Yes, I noticed that. That was the first thing I noticed. This was like a freaking Chris Hansen investigation. Playing ominous music while Ms. Montgomery walked around anime Japan and talked to the mangaka Shinji. His talents lie in more forced content, and his characters tend to be younger-looking high school girls, so his manga is meant for adults. I'll let you unpack that one yourself. When asked, Shinji insisted that his personal opinion should not sway laws regarding freedom of speech and creation. Ms. Montgomery asked him if his manga could lead to real children being harmed, and he pointed out that no such link has ever been made. The laws that protect fictitious works such as manga are considered a loophole by Vice and Ms. Montgomery. So after taking one of Shinji's books, the next person Ms. Montgomery visits was Kazuna Kanajiri, the chief director of PAPS, an organization for P-word and exploitation survivors, with an unusual story from her youth regarding her distribution of P-word at her high school. Montgomery found kinship with her, who insisted that such adult works were a violation of human rights. While she admits that there is no proof, she feels that such manga precipitates child abuse. Shinji would disagree, as he feels such manga gives P-word peoples an outlet for their desires, making kids safer. So much to unpack here. It's worth pointing out that the Institute for Economics and Peace has declared that Japan is the 10th safest country to live in. That is actually true. There's not a whole lot of violent crime in Japan that I'm aware of. Canada, Vice's original HQ, and the US, their current HQ, have both passed laws prohibiting this type of manga. That's why a lot of it does not come out over here. So here's the thing. Japan is relatively safe. You're going into somebody else's country and you're basically telling them, you need to stop this because this offends me. Well, one, it's not going to show up at your local Walmart, and two, if you don't like it, don't buy it. I mean, again, this is definitely not my sort of thing. I am not going to tell people, and I'm not defending it. I would never make it. I would never buy it. But it's just the principle of the thing that now the entire manga industry is going to be smeared by Vice, because people are going to make that connection between manga and P-word. Always. Characters look young, even though they're supposed to be 25 in the comic or whatever. Well, it's P-word because they look young. And we saw Patreon took the bait on this. They were going through people's Google Drives, anybody that was doing that kind of lewd art on the platform, and they were like, these characters look too young, they must be kids. But then again, to be fair, you've got the other extreme, which is like, this character is obviously meant to be like a child, but I'm 432 years old, so it's totally acceptable. Again, there's a lot to unpack here, but my takeaway is Vice went out of their way to demonize the entire manga industry based on some cherry-picked works and some massaged video footage. I guess that's the wrong word, the wrong word to use. After her meeting, the next destination was Mellon Books. Ms. Montgomery admitted that while they asked for permission to film, they were denied. Rather than respecting the store owner's decision, Ms. Montgomery and her cameraman hid a camera and went inside to record anyway, something that is potentially illegal. Later in the video, Ms. Montgomery is given the opportunity to interview an actual politician who himself is a mangaka, as is the creator of Love Hina, who actually ran and won for office because of this. Because of this, he said he's tired of other countries dictating the content that Japan can and can't produce. Right at the start, he dismissed any such links between manga and child abuse, and that such crimes have always taken place with or without manga. When Ms. Montgomery insisted that many people believe a link between manga and child abuse exists, he pointed out that there's no evidence to support the claim, and laws need a scientific basis. Well, that sounds perfectly reasonable. Perfectly reasonable. Let's see what he said here. Could you explain what's depicted in this comic book? It's a comic book for adults that depicts a child. That's it. Do you think this type of work should be protected? No issues, right? Right? Vice. Oh God, Vice. They're running out of money, people. This is what's going on. They're running out of money. All right. He also took aim at Vice for making him look like a Yakuza member. Jeez. Later, he simply made a meme and seems to enjoy the perception. Yeah, so they have him looking out a window like, I'm going to break his fucking fingers, right? The video in full can be viewed above. Backlash directed at Vice and Montgomery was swift and severe. Many questioned Vice's methodology and integrity. People have been questioning that for years. That's why they're fucking failing. On Takahashi of Irodori Comics went on an extensive tweet thread taking aim at Vice's prior remarks regarding P-word. A Japanese Twitter user named Romley mirrored other sentiments, questioning why Vice hid the video from Japan. So they hid the video in Japan. It's not in Japan. Twitter user pointed out something interesting. This isn't the first time a Western reporter with a heavy bias took aim at the Japanese manga industry. No, it's been going on for the last couple of years now. In 2017, BBC Three reporter Stacey Dooley traveled to Japan with the same argument that Ms. Montgomery would present years later. Manga featuring underage characters leads to real children being assaulted. The Anime Man made a video at the time dissecting her arguments and pointed out a segment of her video that was left on the cutting room floor. Ms. Dooley took on Girls Under Panzer's Takeshi Nogama, and she didn't like how it went. Nogama pointed out that at the time, Japan had a lower crime rate and unemployment than the UK, facts that disrupted Ms. Dooley's narratives. He was even-tempered and presented facts, none of which seemed to convince Ms. Dooley of anything. So she just cut the footage. She ended her heated interview by asking Nogami why Japanese people simply didn't follow the UK, to which Nogami replied, asking why the British people didn't follow Japan with its lower crime rate. Ouch! Before her time in Japan came to an end, Ms. Dooley was arrested for filming in an area without permission, a similar criminal act Ms. Montgomery would allegedly perpetuate years later. As of this time, neither Vice nor Ms. Montgomery have made public comments to address it. Vice is failing. Vice is in deep shit. This is just the latest round of cutbacks at Vice, just to bring this up for the umpteenth time. They've been laying people off for the last 2 or 3 years now. And it's only 2%, but it's their digital news and publishing staff. November 11th. They're consolidating. They're getting ready to sell Vice or something. But it seems Ms. Montgomery might be worried about her job, so she needs to get eyeballs on content. And to get eyeballs on content, you got to whack the beehive. So she's not really a journalist. She's just making shit up and trying to paint the manga industry in the worst possible light. I don't even think because she believes it. I mean, everybody knows Japan's been producing this kind of stuff for years, right? Everybody knows it. And it's actually old news. It's like you're like 3 or 4 years late to the party. People were outraged a couple of years ago. Amazon was banning shit. Australia's banning shit, right? But she's coming in because she's got to save her job. That's really all I think it is. She's got to save her job. She probably had a mandate from her boss, like, go find some stuff that's going to bring some views so we can justify paying you your salary. And low-hanging fruit. Well, I think they draw kitty pictures in Japan, so I'm going to go do an investigative journalism on it. And this is what she came up with, and it actually backfired tremendously. And Vice is a laughingstock, as is most of Western news outlets. Most Western news outlets are laughingstocks in Japan, as I understand it. In fact, Japan was having a bit of a party on Twitter when Musk bought Twitter because they could finally just look at their weeb shit and not have to deal with these political hot takes from these media outlets constantly. So good luck with that. I think this bookstore will be in business longer than Vice will be. And the manga industry will continue. They're going to do what they're going to do, right? Don't buy it. Going to wrap it up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.